roles are Chairman of the BSA National Radio Scouting Committee, Chairman of the K2BSA Jamboree Operation, and President of the K2BSA Amateur Radio Association. He also publishes a web titled My Radio Adventures online. Here is Jim to update us on the Boy Scouts of America for 2013.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you very much. And a big crowd gathered here just to see this. Well, welcome. It's all about radio scouting. And so we're going to go into the title of my presentation is What is Radio Scouting and Why Should I Care? And I've given the secret answer on the screen. So pay attention. It will be revealed to you why you should care about radio scouting. And I won't repeat Diane's introduction, but I'm K5ND, and I'm K5ND, and actually on a daily basis I operate a CW key and a RIDI keyboard, not a microphone. That's why I have to be coached on the microphone. But I'm involved in the radio scouting activities from the national office. My day job is also at Boy Scouting in the publishing, web, graphic development area. So what is radio scouting? And I'm going to page down through this for you. First of all, it's Jamboree on the Air. It's a radio merit badge. Amateur radio operator rating strip. More about that later. National Scout Jamboree operation. And the Morse code interpreter strip. Lot of different things going on since the last time that I held this last year. So let's go through those. What's Jamboree on the Air? It's the largest scouting event in the world. And it seems like until about 3 years ago, people weren't quite recognizing that until we started beating the drum about Jamboree on the Air. Last year, 2012, 700,000 scouts actually made contacts around the world, 13,500 stations. I think it was something around 26,000 amateur radio operators were involved, and it was across 142 countries. Pretty good effort. There's actually 150 scouting countries authorized by the World Organization, so very good turnout. But the purpose of Jamboree on the Air is to introduce the scouts to the fun, excitement, technology, and frankly, I think as many of you realize, there's a magic with amateur radio, and you get to introduce that. So it's a quick dip into amateur radio and how that applies to scouting. It's our opportunity to engage scouts and get them kind of connected to it. It's not intensive at all, or it doesn't need to be. So it can be, as you guys well know, many of you have probably done Jamboree on the Air. It can be a home station. These are some photos. I think this one's near Chicago from last year's Jamboree on the Air. Can be outdoors. This one's from California. Looks like a nice little outdoor setup. So what are the benefits? Jamboree on the Air is actually owned by the International Department of the National Office of Boy Scouts of America. The initiator of Jamboree on the Air is the World Organization of the Scouting Movement. But scouts engage with conversations with other scouts. One of my briefing points is always, it's not about contacts, it's about conversations. So it's not a contest with a 200 rate per hour. It's actually, if you get 200 scouts through your demonstration station in maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, and you've made one contact with one wonderful soul on the other end of the QSO to just have conversations with scouts, or ideally, it's a scout operation to another scout operation, and it's scout-to-scout conversations. And although I don't think I've got this in my slides, see what I got next. One of the really interesting reports that I got in last year's from last year's event was a scout group, I think they were in the Chicago area, made a contact with somebody in Alberta. Now this happens the third weekend of October every year. Well, the scouts in Alberta were getting a pretty hard snowfall. The scouts in Chicago thought that was a blast to talk to them about it when they were, I think it might have been an Indian summer day that they were experiencing. Just that regional differences. And then they made a contact with an amateur radio operator in Germany, and they were trying to say, we're not sure what the call was, but we're W9 BSA. He couldn't figure out the 9 side of the call sign. He thought it meant no. Or maybe he was just teasing the scouts on the line, giving them an introduction to that cultural difference, that language difference. So, as an amateur radio operator, how do you organize a Jamboree on the Air event? First, it's work with your local Scout Council district or unit. The real key to make a successful Jamboree on the Air event is lining it up with an existing council event. It could be a district camporee, it could be a council camporee. That way you're one more activity within that camporee for the scouts. Time and time again I've talked with people who have had disappointing results and actually had trouble getting people out to their event that they set up at their club, tried to do some communication around it to get scouts out there. It doesn't work, or it's a rare event where that works because, one, the scouts are busy. They're already at that camporee, or they're doing something else, or they're doing something with their family. So trying to get them to, one, find a location and carve that out of their weekend calendar is going to be very, very challenging. The ideal is set it up at a camporee. Then it becomes yet one more activity. And typically, the people that are organizing that camporee are eager to get additional activities lined up. And then the scouts are there. You can bring them in. If it's 15 minutes, if it's a half hour, that's something that they wouldn't have experienced otherwise. So it's go where the scouts are with one more supporting event. So what are the resources that are available to help you with that? The go-to website, scouting.org/JOTA. And you can add the ASPX, but JOTA will get you there, Jamboree on the Air. This is what that looks like. This is the current patch. We have a new patch every year for Jamboree on the Air, but there are leader guidelines. There's the frequencies, modes of operation. We have a dedicated D-Star reflector. You might be interested in that. Echolink, or maybe it's an IRLP conference room. You name it, we've got it lined up, and those Jamboree on the Air frequencies are coordinated with the World Organization of the Scouting Movement, except where they're saying communicate on this frequency and it's actually prohibited for the U.S. or region, whatever region we're in. But there's also a station registration system. We're going to have that up and running in June so that you can start registering your event, but allows you to get on there, place your email address, how many people you expect to be there, etc. And that allows other people to see where your operation is at, and they can reach out and do schedules with you, that sort of thing. I will note that I got a call or an email from somebody last year who was concerned they were getting too many emails of people trying to line up schedules. And while that might have been unfortunate for that fellow, I kind of figured that was success for us in getting the word out and getting people engaged. Yep. Okay, so that was Jamboree on the Air. That's dipping your toe into amateur radio as a scout. Radio Merit Badge, it's an introduction to radio. There's actually, let me count them, there's actually 3 different options for earning the Radio Merit Badge. Broadcast radio, shortwave listening, and amateur radio. I don't have the statistics on which ones the youth pick, but the amateur radio one can be done in an afternoon. The broadcast radio and the shortwave listening take a few months. So your guess is as good as mine, but I'm thinking it's amateur radio that's happening. At the Jamboree, we're actually we've set up a curriculum. It's the National Scout Jamboree. I'll talk about that later. This is the growth chart for the number of radio merit badges that have been earned since 1951. This is on a decade by decade level. I've got it year by year, of course, but it's jumped. What happened? Well, what happened was the Morse code requirement was dropped in the early 90s. We dropped the Morse code requirement. I think it started out here at 10 words per minute, worked its way down to 5 words per minute, and then in the early 90s was dropped entirely. So, and then from there it showed a steady growth. I'm advised that there are 2 different kinds of merit badges in the eyes of a scout: Eagle required merit badges and easy merit badges. And so I think that, yeah, exactly. I have testimony from the crowd. So that's what's happening there. You can do it in a 4-hour time frame, but there we go. We're delighted, and it's in the range of 6,000 to 7,000 a year. So it's at a pretty good clip. It seems to have plateaued a little bit over the last couple of years. Okay. Another aspect of amateur radio within scouting is called the Amateur Radio Operator Rating Strip. This was introduced in February. It looks just like this. And the requirement to sew this on your uniform as a youth, adult, Cub Scout, Boy Scout venturing member is, do you have a license? Sew the patch on your uniform. So all you need is a license, and what that sets up, it's a perfect step. We've now described a 3-step process: Jamboree on the air, get an introduction, figure out what it is, go, gee, this sounds interesting, let me check it out some more. Radio Merit Badge allows you to check it out some more in roughly a 4-hour time frame, and then that allows you to sew that Radio Merit Badge on, and for about a half again investment of your time, you can get your technician license and sew this patch on. So you got a nice little progression. I'll also mention that we introduced the patch in February. Supply group, our merchandising operation, asked me, how many do you think you're going to sell a year? And my answer was, I have no earthly idea, but gee, we've got a few others. Why don't I say 2,000? Maybe it'll be 3,000. So they bought 1,000. A week later, they were out of stock. And so far, that's been 3 months now. I checked in early May. They had sold 4,200 of the operator rating strips. Now, a bit of that is all us guys buying them and sewing them on all our shirts, but and having a few in our pocket that we can tempt the youth with. But good, a nice thing to introduce to scouting. And I'll also mention it really stems from, there was a senior scout radio man patch, very similar. It was a qualification strip. It required, I had to look this up sometime and document it. It might be on our website, but it was 6 different merit badges or something like that you had to earn, and there were some experience requirements with that. I think it also applied to Explorer Scouts in that era, the 40s, and then it kind of died out. The other aspect of radio scouting is the National Scout Jamboree. National Scout Jamboree happens every 4 years. Now, we had a little blip in that cycle in that in 2010, it was the 100th anniversary of the Boy Scouts of America, so we moved Jamboree by a year. So there was a 5-year gap, 2005, 2010, so we could do this massive thing at around the 100th anniversary. And now to get back on schedule, it's a 3-year cycle. So it's 2013. It's happening in July. But it's the K2BSA operation. K2BSA was established in 1971 at the National Office of the Boy Scouts of America, which at that time was in New Jersey. And the guy that actually was pivotal in acquiring that call sign, this is before vanity call signs, was Walt Maxwell. Walt did a fair bit of work with scouting and worked with the FCC to line up that call sign for us. And the history of that, including the letters that went back and forth, are on the K2BSA website if you're interested in that sort of thing. But what we'll have at the Jamboree is a demonstration station. Icom America is our official transceiver supplier, and so we've got Icom 7200s we have as our primary transceiver, and the reason we do that is we want the scouts to see a simple, straightforward setup so they can go, I think I can do this at home. And that's our whole objective with that. We also have a 7600, a little more sophisticated, two 9100s, chiefly to help us with our satellite and we have a scheduled International Space Station contact. Radio Merit Badge, we're going to start every hour on the hour, 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., 90 minutes in chair, 30 minutes in front of a radio, another 90 minutes in chair, and then you've earned your Radio Merit Badge. Our target is to get 400 scouts through that program. Target with a demonstration station is 4,000. We're also doing amateur radio direction finding and fox hunting, and we cooked up the gear this week, actually. We do have a scheduled contact with the International Space Station. That looks to be happening no earlier than the 15th, which is the start of the Jamboree, and that week is when we're still working on lining up orbits and that sort of stuff. We will be doing 3 high-altitude balloon launches as well, tracking those with APRS, etc. And then Icom America has really stepped up and is installing 3 repeaters at the summit in West Virginia on a permanent basis. So we have a 2-meter FM repeater, a 70-centimeter FM repeater, and a 70-centimeter D-Star repeater. And I'm told by a good authority, Ray Novak, that the installation of this repeater will mean that all 50 states have a D-Star repeater in them. West Virginia does not at this point, so we'll complete the 50-state sweep for D-Star. Another thing that we've got within scouting, this was introduced last year, is the Morse code interpreter strip. What an interpreter strip typically means, and it goes right here on the uniform, it typically says Espanol, or it spells out in Chinese characters that I speak Chinese or whatever. Its purpose is somebody can come up and say, hey, I need some help. They probably would say it in a different language because they see the interpreter strip. Now, if they come up to me and go, I can communicate with them. Unlikely, but still it's kind of cool. We got the awards and insignia committee of the Boy Scouts to agree to that. They actually coached us on that. And it spells out, of course, Morse with the dots and the dashes. The qualifying requirements are identical to the other interpreter strips. There's a minimum level of proficiency, which in this case is 5 words per minute, sending and receiving. So, and then it's also, in that year, it's become the second highest selling interpreter strip Boy Scouts has. Espanol sells at $2,300 a year. This strip is selling at $1,800 a year. So not that far behind, but of course it's the first year. There's a blip there as us old guys buy these and sew them on all our shirts. So what's in it for me? That was the question that I asked earlier on. What's radio scouting and why do I care? So what's in it for me? Why should I care? We all have our radio stations tuned to WIIFM. What's in it for me? It's mentoring the next generation of hams. That's where they're coming from. They're not coming from anywhere else. They're coming from youth. And I show this particular graphic because I like it a lot. We designed that at the Boy Scouts. And Icom produced banners and cards and all that sort of stuff last year and provided them to all their dealers. So it's a very nice campaign that we worked. And what's our relationship with Icom, Boy Scouts of America? They have provided 10 complete stations, and you can see one, that Pelican case that's down on the end of the booth here. We have 10 of those. They're available for local councils for loan to support Jamboree on the Air, Radio Merit Badge workshops. A few of them have them available for summer camp and the Radio Merit Badge workshops that are going on during summer camp. We're entering the second year of the program. It took a little while to get the communicated through the Scout councils, getting them to understand what it was and how to work it. But now it's starting to take off, and we're getting a lot of them out there. I think we might have had 6 of them out during Jamboree on the Air. Where we work together to promote radio scouting year-round. I think I've got a slide on that here later. Also, Icom is the official transceiver and repeater sponsor for the Jamboree and the Summit, our new property in West Virginia. And for example, this is an advertisement that Icom is running in QST in the June issue of QST. So watch for that. There's also an article in the June QST on radio scouting, so you can get a little bit of an overview in written form from that. I mentioned earlier the go-to webpage is this scouting.org/JOTA, but K2BSA has a web page, a Facebook page, Twitter feed. That's where some breaking news usually hits, so it's good to connect there at K2BSA.scouting on Facebook. So friend that and get connected. You'll also, let me see if before I leave that one, I'll tell you what we're doing here. We have rented a scouting facility that's 3 miles from Hera Arena. I've had 20 Jamboree staff members here for the whole week. We call it the Dayton Drill at Cricket Holler. It's at the Cricket Holler Scout Camp, but Icom delivered a pallet load of equipment there earlier this month. Step IR is our antenna sponsor. We've also delivered a whole bunch more gear. 20 guys descended on it on Monday, started the assembly work, sorted through all of our equipment, getting it to work, our demonstration procedures, etc. By Friday, we had enough time available. We could all get out to the Hamvention, but we also had a shopping list of what else we needed. Today, we're running a Radio Merit Badge workshop there for our local scouts to test our curriculum, and we're packing up a trailer, getting it ready to ship to the Jamboree. So it's been a fabulous week for 20 guys on the Jamboree staff. And then my address as well. I've got a blog. K5ND's got a blog as well. So I'm open for questions and answers. And if you don't ask any questions, I'm going to ask questions. Our scout left, so I can't ask him questions. Doggone it. Any questions?
One real quick one. Could I get a copy of your presentation?
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely.
That's
okay.
The question.
Yeah.
I'll make it to the Birmingham Council where it's going to go.
Okay, good. And I'll note, and as Gary Wilson, he's published a bunch of slide decks for Radio Merit Badge. We'll have our Jamboree slide deck posted as well. It's all on that JOTA page. And great. And yeah, and I encourage you to there is yeah, good. Gary's bringing those over. Here's all the links. Oh, you got one? Good. Mentoring the next generation of hams with all the website links and that sort of stuff for you. So, great. Thank you. And we'll get this.
He's the chair of the committee. We're not related, even though we have the same wife.
That's right. My cousin Gary. Ah ha ha! I will. I'll be handing it out. I'll be making more and hand them out. You just need to call this guy. That's right. No, we were chatting here with Gary Wilson, who's also on the National Radio Scouting Committee, and then Jim Wilson, my namesake, K4BAV, handed me his card as well. So that's great. Yeah. Okay. Well, and I'll also mention the Northeast Region President of Boy Scouts of America is Jim Wilson, and we trade emails a lot. But any other questions? Thanks very much. Thanks for your attention. You might want to check out that loan station that's at the end of the booth. There's also an infographic on there that shows the progress of radio scouting through the years, as well as the covers of each of the radio merit badges that were offered. And you might recognize one if you were in scouting at that time.
I like to say radio merit badge is the gateway drug to amateur radio.
The gateway drug, yes. All right, thank you very much. Thanks, Jim. Yeah.
I'm also on the National Public Relations Committee for ARRL.
Oh, yeah.
So, see what we make get.
Yeah. I'm on the reflector. I've gone through PR 101, I think it is. Let's see.
You may, whatever's on there, you can just write over the.
I don't think it's very big.
What I'm going to do with it is to present it at a round table. I'll go through it, try to understand it. I may give you a call for a question or two.
Absolutely, yeah.